Right, so let me start with the RCGI, which is the Research Center for Gas Innovation. We have recently changed our name to Research Center for Greenhouse Gas Innovation, emphasizing the role of technological development on the mitigation of greenhouse gases. Well, we are based at the University of São Paulo. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the university here in Brazil. It is the largest university in the country and by far the most important one in terms of research output and also undergraduate courses. And we say it's an extra large university in size with and comes with extra large problems as well. But just to give you numbers, we have roughly around 58,000 undergrad students and a ratio to students to faculty members to about 58,000 to almost 6,000. So 1 to 10,000 here. 1 to 10, sorry. And the University of São Paulo is responsible for 23% of all the Brazilian scientific production at the moment. Our research papers come from this hub of science and technology in the country. But not only that, the university is based in this region of Brazil that I call the Science and Tech Corridor. It's a corridor of roughly 400 kilometers from São José dos Campos here all the way up to Ribeirão Preto. These are all cities in the state of São Paulo, which is marked here in the map. And this corridor is responsible for 45% of all the science and technology output of the country. So this is our science and tech valley or corridor in Brazil. That's where science is made in the country. 35% of all the PhD output comes out of this region, not only University of São Paulo, of course, but many other private and public universities in this area. Now, forgot to change. The university here is, you're more than invited to come. Please do join us once if you can in the future. It's a cultural hub in the city of São Paulo, in the state as well. But our center, which is based here at the University of São Paulo, aims at the mitigation of greenhouse gases and works with CCUS, carbon capture, usage and storage, sustainable use of natural gas, biogas, hydrogen, and all sorts of R&D related to the innovation in the gas sector. It's a center based on research, innovation, and diffusion of knowledge, meaning that not only we try to generate new knowledge, but also to communicate this knowledge to the diversity of the population, various spheres of interest, but also to try to innovate and transfer that technology through startups and spin-offs to new businesses and companies. So this is the model of the center based on the 3 pillars. And the context for the beginning of the center is the energy transition. If you pay attention to the energy mix of the world in 2020, you will see that renewables, of course, are still, they share a smaller piece of the pie than the fossil fuels, with natural gas taking a nice 21% role here in the pie. Now, in the Brazilian energy mix, you notice that it's much greener because we have a lot of hydropower and also bioenergy from sugarcane, from ethanol. Of course, here we are taking into account also fuel for transportation, not just electricity. And natural gas has a smaller role in Brazil. And the idea of the center, one of the ideas, is to increase the share of natural gas, reducing the share of other fossil fuel sources of energy, and then making natural gas our target fuel for the energy transition as it is considered elsewhere in the world. On top of that, Brazil has a lot of natural gas, and we have reached record in production of natural gas recently in the pre-salt layer of Brazil, offshore, of course. Our giant reservoirs are all offshore. And we also understand that the natural gas all sorts of gases will play a very important role in the energy transition, communicating to the future sources of energy and also with the previous sources of energy. Then natural gas is the prime fuel for energy transition, since it makes use of the infrastructure we had before, but also dialogues quite well with the new energy of the future. It is impossible for you to go from a fossil to a completely green energy mix without passing through the cleanest of the fossil fuels, that is natural gas. Now, with that in mind, appeared the Research Center for Gas Innovation. Here, this is our headquarters where Karen and Julio are at the moment at Scola Politecnica, our polytechnic school at the University of São Paulo. And the center itself it gathers about 370 researchers. It's a large center by our proportions. Has 46 research projects arranged in 5 scientific programs. And the center began, or started, with a partnership between FAPESP, which is the São Paulo State Funding Agency for Research, the Shell, the giant oil company, energy company, and the University of São Paulo. Then they joined forces with an investment which is very large for our history of research in the country. And the center was established in 2016 and has walked through 3+1 phases of new projects. So nowadays we have 46 different projects, and this is the average lifespan of the projects that began in 2016. We are now, due to the pandemic, delaying phase 1 to 2021, so we are now starting phase 3, which with a new share of projects from this year. Now, this combination of long-term investment with good planning and good management for our university standards, meaning that we are not a corporation, we are not in the corporate world, we are still in academia, but a hybrid between academia and companies like Shell. We managed to reach high impact results, producing fundamental and applied research, but also working with the suppliers and companies from the other end. Now we have many partner institutions in Brazil from various universities and units from the University of São Paulo, many other universities, and here we highlight the Sustainable Gas Institute, which is a sister institution also sponsored by Shell at Imperial College, where Karen spent some time. But we also have many international agreements and cooperation and researchers working from various other universities. You notice, of course, Oxford and Imperial College, 2 strong links and old links we have with the UK, but also universities we developed stronger links now, especially in the States and Japan. There are more universities here, of course, that I did not list, but meaning that we are very open and we understand as a very important part of this endeavor to establish long-lasting and productive links with international universities, and especially those universities that are based or have the vocation for working in related fields, like Houston and São Paulo are have more very, very similar technological needs in oil and gas exploration. Now, the center, of course, is considering its alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's a new way to show where you're targeting your impact. And we understand that we contribute primarily to 2 of those goals, with affordable and clean energy and with climate action, but also indirectly to many other goals, as you can see here. Several of our projects tackle one or another directly and many indirectly. Now, I will just show you a few examples. In the Diffusion of Knowledge, we organize an annual meeting called Energy Transition, Research and Innovation, ETRI. And our last meeting was in 2019. I apologize for this slide. It's outdated because we were hoping to have the ETRI 2020 in October, but that was not possible due to the pandemic, so we were saving it for next year. the in-person conference, and of course you're invited to join us if you wish. The E3 is happening at the University of São Paulo as usual. And but now looking into research, our 46 projects are spread or organized in these five scientific programs. So we have a few projects that tackle the subject from an engineering perspective, another few that tackle from a physical chemistry perspective, projects related to economics and energy policies, and a list of interesting projects in CO2 abatement, and one big project with many streamlines on geophysics. So these are the established research lines of the center. I will show you that they have changed slightly. I will not spend much time here explaining you how the center is organized, but just to give you an overview that Shell, FAPESP, and all the scientific members and directors of the center, they all join forces in one executive committee that is a steering committee for the center as well. So there are heads for the different programs that also join forces to the decision-making process. So we are not fully a corporation in the strict sense, but we are also not just under the inertia of the academic world anymore. So it's something hybrid. Now, I won't spend much time here showing you a few project highlights because I know we want to discuss something further, but if you are interested, there are four projects that highlights that I could explain to you. One on the energy policies, another one on labyrinth seals to hold or to mitigate the leakage of gas, another one which is a supersonic separator to separate CO2 from CH4 for very high streams of gas, and the fourth one which is a system of underground offshore salt caverns to separate and store gases under the water. So these projects have been developed in the center recently, and some have achieved quite a good level of success. Now, the Research Center for Greenhouse Gas Innovations, as it stands now, brings in a very interesting new perspective, and it becomes a center that focuses on the abatement technology for greenhouse gases, and it joins forces with what Brazil has in a grand scale, that is agriculture. So we have a new organization coming with new projects that are very much aligned with carbon capture and utilization, bioenergy, carbon capture and storage, of course focusing on what Brazil has to offer, nature-based solutions, a very strong link with agriculture, greenhouse gases, and of course advocacy, meaning that research line to talk to society, generate public policies and evaluate economic impact. So the idea of the center, the goal is to support Brazil in achieving its NDCs through research and innovation in the gas sector. Right, I think this was an overview of the RCGI. I'm sure Julio would like to talk a lot about the ideas of the center with great pleasure. But if you're interested in some specific points, we can come back to this talk later on, and I can send it to you. And of course, if you visit the website, you'll find all the explanation for all the projects there with publications and goals and deliverables and achievements in our website. Okay, Oscar, I send it back to you if you want to make a pause or questions or anything, or if you want me to go straight to the other presentation, it's up to you. I think it's a good idea, yeah.